Hello everybody, this is Eli from Elfbait, and welcome back. Sorry I've been a little bit scarce. I came in down with a nasty cold, just now getting over it enough to where I feel like I can talk on camera again. Anyways, nice to be back, and I may be clearing my throat a couple times in this video, but you'll bear with me. So, things are going alright gaming-wise. Today I'm having my session 0 for the 2018 campaign for my Monday group. I'll be talking about that in another video. Actually started sort of a campaign startup diary for that, and I'll be doing a video on that later. But I wanted to jump on and talk about something that came to my attention that I feel has not been spoken about as much as some other aspects of gaming. Especially with D&D. So D&D is getting huge. It's getting popular. It is popular. It's giant. It's probably bigger than it's ever been. And we hear a lot of talk about how to play the game, what the right way is to play, what is good, what is bad. And there are certainly a lot of different angles you can look at this at, or look at this from, and take away from it what you will. But one of the things that I hear a lot about is player agency, and how players, you shouldn't have their agency removed, and players shouldn't have their options limited. Player agency is paramount. Don't you dare step on player agency. Don't you dare do anything like a railroad or a no-win or a one-option scenario. So first of all, I don't agree that player agency is sacrosanct. You should certainly try to preserve it as much as you can, but there are definitely times when it's going to be compromised. That's just life. And if you're playing a D&D campaign and you want it to actually have some teeth, and you want it to feel like there is some risk to it, there are going to be times, or there should be times, in my opinion, where the players are limited in their options, or in some cases have no choice, or at least there's no obvious choice. And this is where a player, that's the whole discussion on player agency. That's a different video. What I wanted to jump in and talk about, though, is on the other side of things. DMs deserve agency. Now, what do I mean by DMs deserve agency? Well, I believe that there's a lot of conversation and a lot of dialogue that's going on about how the DM is there to facilitate the game and make a game where everybody has a good time, and everybody should be able to have a good time no matter what, hands down, their way or the highway. All right. So while that's a pretty extreme distillation of the overall dialogue, because there are certainly a wide range of opinions on that and positions, it should never be forgotten that the DM is part of the game as well. The DM, or GM, whatever you want to call yourself, judge, storyteller, is putting in a lot of time and effort, arranging things, keeping track of things, and organizing things for the players. That said, there should be a certain amount of reciprocity at the table for the DM's efforts. The DM should be allowed to have some agency as far as the game goes. Now, what would I categorize as DM agency? Well, first of all, campaign setup, campaign limitations. If a DM does not want to deal with tieflings or dragonborn or gnomes or whatever in their world, and they want to have that be a hard element of the campaign setting, that's their decision. That's the game they want to run. Now, if you as a player have a problem with that, you certainly can discuss it with your DM, and maybe you can find some sort of an option or an exception or something. But you have to respect the fact that just like you want to play a certain kind of game, so does the DM. The DM is not absolutely beholden to you as a player, especially if you're a minority voice in the group. If all the other players are wanting to play something a certain way and you want to do something else, everybody else is wanting to make absolutely gritty characters along the thread of the DM's original pitch, and you come in and you want to make this, silly half pixie whatever character that doesn't fit the setting. You really need to respect the fun of the other players, but also the fun of the DM. The DM has agency as far as setting the guidelines for the campaign. A good DM is going to listen to his players, but just like you should have freedom to act in game as a player, the DM should have freedom to create and run the games that he wants to create and run. He's got to put she. I say he because I'm speaking from my own personal point of view, so my pronoun's going to come out specific. But if you're running a game, or if you're playing a game and the DM wants to run a game, they are absolutely entitled to want to run a specific game. They're going to put a ton of work into that game, and they are going to be the ones who are responsible for that campaign. If it is beholden absolutely to player whim and player desire with zero input or zero feedback or zero agency, from the DM side of things, it's going to be a chore. You're going to get a substandard experience. Your DM's going to get tired, bored, angry, frustrated with the game, and he's not going to do his best. He, she, again. So that would be one part of player agency. Setting up, or DM agency, setting up the game. The other part of, or an other part of DM agency in my mind is running the game itself. So every DM has a DMing style. That is the style that they have honed, that is the style that they have practiced, and it is the style that has made them the DM they are now. Now, DMing is something, it's a skill that develops over time, and so certainly the style of the DM at the time is not necessarily the style that he's going to maintain throughout life, or it could be the style that he's developed over the past 20, 30 years of gaming, and it is really hardwired. It is his style of play, it is his style of running the game. This means that he's going to do things the way that he does it. That she does it, that it's going to come down to their style. That is how they work. It's how they're wired. If you are challenging this at every step, if you're arguing with the DM, or you don't like the way that the DM is operating, then as with anything in the hobby, you have to have a discussion with your other players, but you have to respect that the DM is doing their job. They're doing their job in the way that they like. This should have been spelled out up front, but there are so many intricacies, so many little details to DMing style that are not able to come out in a session 0 or be prefaced on whatever campaign syllabus you get handed, because a lot of DMs just don't think about them anymore. They do them by rote. It's hardwired. It is branded into their style of gaming. So they should and will have a certain amount of agency in running the game. The last part about agency that I would really want to touch on for DMing is story. So while this ties in with the style of play, and the style and their campaigns and their DMing style, story is also an area where the DM should be allowed agency, just like the players should be able to act and react to the elements of story that get thrown at them. The DM should not be spending their time tiptoeing around, walking on eggshells, worrying about stepping on plot elements. I mean, he should be able, he, she, they, I hate to play the pronoun game, but it's not all for the players. I know that may be an improper point of view, but the DM is there too. The DM is a player. And so as the DM is telling the story, the DM should feel able and that they have agency to go ahead and make those story changes, those story plots, those hooks, those developments that they feel is good for the game. You as a player get to respond to this with your agency, and a good DM is going to follow that. But don't try to cut your DM off because your DM is doing things that maybe you don't like or agree with in the game as far as the way the story should go. I mean, we're not talking about is the DM being mean? Is the DM being, is your DM going into weird territory? Are they being blatantly sexist, racist, just horrible in some way? That's totally different. That's a completely different topic. But if the DM is telling a story and he's still within the range of the agreed upon session 0 style of play, and it starts to veer off a bit, let them run. Let the DM run that game and respond in character. Respond with your character. If there are plots that don't mean anything to your party, then your DM is likely going to pick up on it, and they should then change the course of the campaign. Hopefully they won't be throwing that out there, but certainly DMs are fallible, and so if a DM decides to throw a story element or a plot twist at you that doesn't go so well, don't condemn them. Allow them that agency, allow them the freedom of running the game the way that seems right, and you're likely going to get a better game out of it. There may be some tough spots, especially with DMs that wing it a lot, who do a lot of improvisation. Even with DMs who use published material, sometimes they misinterpret the material. Sometimes they adapt the material. Sometimes the way that the adventure runs just doesn't mesh well with how the players played it. And so the DM may end up kind of in a tough spot having to deal with some unsatisfactory feelings towards the game. So in kind of the 3 points there, that is DM agency. In my opinion, the DM should be allowed to run the type of games that they want to run. You as a player, if you're a player, you don't have to play in those games, but the DM is not required to bend his game that he wants to run to your whim. The DM should be allowed to run a game in the style that they are comfortable with, and certainly, it is in their best interest to pay attention to their players, but they're not beholden to their players to necessarily give up all their time, all the skill and practice that they have developed over time, or their jam, their groove, whatever you want to call it. And really, lastly, they should be able to have the ability to tell stories in a way that are not under constant scrutiny by the players. The best D&D games I've been in, the best games I've been in, have been those where I have, as a DM, where I've been able to just tell the story and watch the players interact with it and roll with it. Sometimes it means that the players don't go to the Mighty Fortress, and what's going on at the Mighty Fortress may still happen, or maybe just fades into the background. It wasn't important. It was a bad storyline, so everybody agrees and we just move on. Also, as a player, some of the best games I've ever been in have been where I just sit back as a player and I respond to the world that comes at me through the DM, through the GM, through the storyteller, whatever the case is. I'll be honest and a little transparent here. One of the reasons I don't spend a lot of time as a player is because it is very hard for me, having spent so much time as a DM, to not sit on the other side of the table and constantly dissect the game from a DM's point of view. That is my own problem. That is my impediment. And so I accept that and I acknowledge that. I do not try to make a DM run a game my way. I do not try to make a DM feel bad for the way that they're running their game. I do not try to coach them from the other side of the table. You know, I do not try to DM from a player's perspective. You know, I'm aware of that. I'm cognizant of that. It's why I usually am a DM. But those games where I have been able to sit back and just release my inner DM and just ride with it have been brilliant. Sure, there have been sticky spots, but we've played our way through it. Sometimes it meant going through that plot line that I wasn't particularly interested in, but the rest of the players were. And so I just kind of rode through until it was my story that I liked, the story that I liked. We're all in it. We're all cooperating. If the plot turned a direction that I really didn't want to be in, find a way to excuse my character. Maybe make a new one. Or have my character go into downtime mode until the storyline picked up and they came back my way. So, players, when you're sitting down at the table and you're gearing up and you're wanting to make sure that your voice is heard at the table, that your fun is taken under consideration, don't forget that your DM on the other side of the table, they also have a stake in the game. They're working their butts off to make this game good for you, and respect that work that they're doing and allow them the fun, allow them the agency to enjoy the game as well. You'll all be better off for it, and that's really what we're in it for. We're all here to have fun and play games. So anyways, if you've got comments, there's a spot for those below. Please leave those comments. I enjoy reading them. If you're a DM and you have concerns about DM agency, if you're a player and you are concerned about your DM and maybe you feel that they take too much agency, because that's, you know, in any case where agency is involved, there is too much. There's such a thing as too much. But yes, comments go down there. Leave them. Love to read them. Like, share, subscribe. You know, if you're coming down to Elfbait for the first time, this is a video you caught. Sorry. It's kind of a bit of a preachy video. They're not all this way. Got plenty of videos on monsters and all that. Check them out. Going to start trying to get into the garage here and do these more frequently. The weather seems to be warming up a bit, so this is not an ice box out here. I actually had to run a space heater so my paints and my sculpting resin and everything didn't change chemically, and my glues go all weird on me. But it's a little bit more comfortable out here, so I should be back in here more often. If you have ideas for videos, questions that you want to throw past me that you might think would make a good video, or you just need a quick answer to, I also have a Facebook for Elfbait. Go ahead and join up on that as well. There is a space for Elfbait over on Google+. It's not all that well-traveled. And I am on Twitter as Elfbait. You can find me on there as well. Run questions past me. I love talking hobby. So if you want to talk shop, I'm on the social medias. So by all means, you know, hit me up there as well. If you haven't checked them out, check out Nerdarchy. They also have a lot of good question and answer. Cody over at Taking 20, he's a great guy, super energetic. I think if we could harness his power, his energy, we could power the country ad infinitum. WebDM, those guys are rocking it all the time. Those are my top 3 that I watch. There's so much out there, but I really feel like, you know, my little guy in the garage here, I got to give some credit to the people who inspired me, and I try to do that on a regular basis. So yeah, check those guys out. I'll throw up some links in the description below to those as well as a link to the Elfbait Facebook. This has been another long post-amble on my part. I do apologize. One of the things I want to try and work on for 2018 is being a little bit more succinct, but it's going to be a lot of work. Anyways, have a good one. Thanks for stopping by. Get out and game. Take care.